I am New York.
Я сам Нью-Йорк.
I am New York.
Yo soy Nueva York.
Sono New York.
Je suis New York.
Welcome to DiverseCITY, where we explore New York's eclectic enclaves, one neighborhood at a time. I'm Zyphus LeBron. This month we're coming to you from Yorkville on Manhattan's Upper East Side. The area is located between the East River and 3rd Avenue and is bordered by 96th Street to the north and 72nd Street to the south. Yorkville was once the center of German life in New York City. Now it's become one of the city's most affluent neighborhoods. The opening of the 2nd Ave Q train line in January of 2017 made the area more accessible and has also led to a bit of a development boom. But some critics are saying that while developers are building up new structures, they're tearing down old ones that gave the area its personality. This boom is also driving up rent prices and driving out many who once called the area home. On this episode, Not in My Backyard, what's holding up the construction of a new facility for the area's unhoused population? The fall of the walls, battling to preserve the area's German history. And Sweet Sensations, a long-standing neighborhood icon that's found new life through social media. Those stories and more coming up on DiverseCITY. A plan to build a new homeless shelter in Yorkville has hit a snag. This despite unanimous approval from the community board. Shannon Ayala reports on what's holding up the housing.
As of fall of 2022, the city was on the verge of breaking its record for the size of its homeless population. At last count, more than 60,000 people live in shelters. It's estimated that thousands more are unsheltered.
I don't know if Yorkville has, a level of street homelessness that's akin to, Midtown, but like everywhere in New York and certainly Manhattan, there is street homelessness here.
The street homelessness in the area was enough to inspire former council member Ben Kalos to team up with West Side social services group Goddard Riverside to create a new homeless shelter in Yorkville. The shelter would be located at the far east end of East 91st Street. It would be a certain kind of shelter called a safe haven. We spoke to reporter Nick Garber, who covered the area for Patch at the time.
I think the basic concept is that a safe haven has a very low threshold for admission, and the whole idea is just to sort of get people out from off the streets and into a bed where they can receive, much needed care.
When Kalos and Goddard Riverside pitched the safe haven to Community Board 8 in 2021, the board voted unanimously in favor.
There's a lot of concern about the visibility and the increasing number of people who are on the street, and so we felt as a board that we want to help get people off the street.
However, not everyone loves the idea.
We have had countless families and customers of our facility calling continuously since Friday with grave concerns and worries for the safety of
The head of a children's gymnastics center that's next door to the proposed safe haven site launched a petition against the shelter. It was signed by more than 4,000 people. We have extreme empathy towards the adults seeking help and shelter and support the construction of a safe haven, the petition reads in part. It goes on, however, the location needs to be altered to a space where unattended children do not have unsupervised opportunity of contact with adults. The gym did not respond to our requests for an interview. Garber, the local reporter, says the gym's concerns were addressed directly.
And in response, the folks at Goddard said that there would be 24/7 security, that there would be a really robust sort of social services program.
The gym was just the first line of resistance. Soon, Eli Zabar, heir of the popular West Side Zabar's Deli and Grocery Store, got in the way. Zabar owns East Side Markets and the building that houses the children's gym. Garber says the developer sued Zabar for refusing to give the access needed for the safe haven's construction.
What Eli Zabar says is that he admits to stalling this project. He says it's completely about construction safety. The developers say that that's kind of a ruse and that the real issue is that he doesn't want a homeless services building being built, right next to his own building.
The developer lost the lawsuit against Zabar, then filed another. Last summer, a pro-shelter coalition made up of Upper East Side residents wrote Zabar a letter in protest. Things got even more complicated after Goddard Riverside, the organization that would have run the place, pulled out of the plan. In a statement to us, they said the city changed the model design in a way that was inconsistent with Goddard's service delivery approach, so they withdrew.
What Councilmember Julie Menon's office told me was that the city had sort of tweaked the safe haven model to be more of a short-term, they called it a welcome center.
Councilmember Menon wasn't available for comment. Since he spoke to us for this piece, Garber later reported that a technical glitch was holding up the project. Opponents made the indisputed charge that the zoning application referred to the site as a hotel when it would really be a rooming house, which seemed to explain why the city downgraded the plan for short-term stays. Patch also reported that court records from November showed Zabar testified in court that he supports all homeless shelter projects but not the 91st Street plan due to its revised model. The plan is more than a year behind schedule, but CB8 Chair Squire says he hopes it comes to fruition.
I would like to see it move forward, and I'm hoping that it proceeds as a safe haven in the way that we approved it.
Shannon Ayala for DiverseCITY.
There's an effort afoot to preserve the last remnants of this neighborhood's German history. As I found out, it's been an uphill battle. These days, Schaller and Weber Butcher Shop and the Heidelberg Restaurant on the corner of 2nd Avenue and 86th Street are two of the few reminders of a once bustling community that existed back in the early 1900s.
When people came to 86th Street, the common language was not English, it was German. And that's why it was called Germantown and Kleindeutchland.
The area grew from a tragedy. Initially, the city's German enclave was on the Lower East Side. But in 1904, a passenger steamboat caught fire off the East River and killed more than 1,000 German people who were attending a church picnic. The General Slocum fire is still considered the city's worst maritime disaster. The grief from that event pushed many Germans up to Yorkville.
Walking through the streets down there, it was sad, and they couldn't turn every corner anymore. So then people started to move up to Yorkville, and Yorkville was just growing.
Kathy Jolowicz was born in the neighborhood. The 83-year-old remembers the area's heyday very fondly, but says those days are long gone.
I lost my village brick by brick, and all the people in it, and the atmosphere, and the love and the camaraderie.
That sadness over losing her community started her on a more than 30-year mission to preserve anything she could of Kleindeutchland.
So I started interviewing old people, and I collected things that I could find, pictures that I could find, and people gave me pictures. So I put that all together, and I have now like 36 large panels, 20 by 30 panels.
She takes that exhibit all over the country. One of her patrons was the Friends of the Upper East Side. The organization is a nonprofit that seeks to, among other things, preserve the area's historic architecture. The executive director says it's an uphill battle.
There's enormous development pressure on the Upper East Side. I feel like practically every day we're hearing about another, intact row of historic tenement buildings that are coming down for a new high-rise building.
All these new buildings and upgrades to older ones are hampering Friends' efforts to convince the Landmarks Preservation Commission to designate the area a historic district. That, in turn, would limit the amount of change that could be made to certain buildings.
A historic district, as designated by the city, requires a group of contiguous buildings. And the fact is that on the far eastern Upper East Side in Yorkville, there is a great deal of variation in the building types. So there are the historic buildings, but they're mixed in along with mid-century apartment buildings from the 70s and 80s, more modern construction. And so that contiguous group of buildings that would really form the Yorkville Historic District isn't quite there.
So, Friends has switched their strategy. Rather than focusing on the area as a whole, they are now emphasizing the importance of individual buildings. They're doing that through a project called Beyond the Bricks.
Our starting point is always the tangible, the buildings themselves, but that's why we thought, let's go beyond the bricks and look at who is using these buildings, who has used them over time, how are they still relevant, and sort of tapping into that intangible character of Yorkville today.
It's that character that Jolowicz misses. She hopes that the city will try to preserve her heritage, as it has others.
I hope that this era will not be forgotten, because it was as a famous landmark in our corner of our city. Just like Chinatown and Little Italy, they survive, but we could not. And of course, being German, a lot of people are against Germans even still today, I find that. And I'm sorry, because that was an era that was a happy era. It had nothing to do with war and fighting, and Jews and Christians and everybody else came together, and we're a family. I mean, they live side by side, but that will never be seen again, and that's, for me, that's very sad.
Here's a unique fact about Yorkville you may not know. Its subway stops boast the first ever coffee shops located within the subway system. Winfield Street Coffee now has 2 locations in each of the area's Q train stations, with a third about to open. Craig Thompson visited one of these platforms in search of some espresso on the Express.
This would be our newest location here. Pastries, coffee, espresso machine will be here as well. Be right back there. And I'll actually be able to put tables right here along the wall.
Brano Donati is the CEO of Winfield Street Coffee. When we caught up with him, he was busy putting the final touches on the 3rd Q line location of Winfield Coffee at the 72nd Street station.
I'm in competition with anywhere that sells coffee. So the carts upstairs, the coffee shops, Whole Foods, any place. We're just trying to be routine for people, and just get in their routine, having consistent product over here that they can count on.
Coffee on the platform wasn't something that city commuters could count on before. The MTA recently decided to change what's called the dry use of the platforms. The dry use referred to newspaper stalls, but they couldn't sell anything like coffee. The MTA recently enacted a new policy for wet use and asked for bidders. Donati's company won the authorities' approval.
So what I tell my staff is to pretend that the platform is our coffee shop. So as soon as people walk down the stairs, they can, good morning, or, just say hello, because they're entering into our store in a way,
Donati, a businessman who got his start in pizza shops in Connecticut, has a history with the MTA. He opened his first location in the city at the Croton-on-Hudson Metro-North station. His company won the bid for the Q line over 16 other applicants. The first shop in the subway at 86th Street opened in March of 2022, just when the city lifted its mask mandate.
Demographic changes block to block in New York City. So even our station on 96th Street is very different than 86th, and it will be much different than 72nd.
Ridership on the subway remains well below pre-COVID levels, but those who do ride the Q now have a new grab-and-go option on the platform.
With the ridership here in the Q line, especially 72nd Street, before COVID there was about 25,000 people going through those turnstiles every single day.
One issue in the subways is the specter of crime. Brino and his employees have already had to deal with that.
We run a very lean operations. A lot of times we have one person working, and we employ young people sometimes. So the MTA looks at us as an extra set of eyes, but it's dangerous for a barista sometimes, right? So we've been, I had a barista that was shoved down the stairs. We've been pissed on the door multiple times. We've been robbed dozens of times. We made a mistake where we have a grab-and-go refrigerator, and so people just come and take.
So how can he ensure worker safety?
By 96, we're going to start closing earlier. We have no choice, and we've also lobbied for more security, because just having somebody with a jacket, just kind of deters.
In spite of this, he's hoping more customers get used to grabbing a coffee or a pastry while waiting for the Q train.
Q line it's a great location because everything is clean. There's more security, and it's a little more upgraded. Some of the other stations are they're not upgraded, and a lot of them don't even have the electrical power needed to run the machines. Yesterday I was there, and this lady's like, "Oh, you guys are my favorite consolation prize. Every time I miss the train, at least I can get coffee." I'm like, we're here for that. I'm glad.
For DiverseCITY, I'm Craig Thompson.
There are a few hidden gems along Yorkville streets. One of them is a miniature toy shop that is one of the city's last. Vanessa Monet reports in this piece produced by Craig Thompson and Petital Jancic about the big business of the tiny dollhouse.
We are a dedicated dollhouse and miniature shop. Everything in the shop is dollhouse related, from building supplies to interior finishing supplies, furnishings, accessories, people to populate the houses.
Leslie Edelman has owned Tiny Dollhouse for over 30 years. The store has been a Yorkville fixture for all that time. It's moved around, but 78th Street is its most recent and longest-lasting location.
I've been here about 17 years, and I see the same dads walking their kids to school every morning, passing, staring in the windows and waving, and it just has a very nice kind of home quality to it. Prior on Lexington, it was pretty much the same thing. You saw the same people every morning, and it just has a nice neighborhood feeling.
Tiny Dollhouse is becoming more of a rarity in the area, a long-standing shop that resists rent hikes in a gentrifying city. In Yorkville alone, the famous restaurant Elaine's closed in 2010, and Glazer's Bake Shop in 2018. Edelman attributes the Dollhouse's staying power to a strong customer base.
We've always prided ourselves on being very fair and being very customer-oriented. And I think we've developed quite a following, not only with people from the city, but we're known throughout the world as a destination in New York for tourists who are interested in miniatures.
Make no mistake, there's money in these miniatures. These pieces have drawn in celebrities like Joan Rivers, Marvin Hamlisch, and Sigourney Weaver. The market for these tiny toys is estimated at more than $250 million.
You can come in here and spend $3 on something, and you can spend $3,000 on something. There's something for everyone.
That market for these pint-sized pieces attracted Tim Potter to the store. Potter moved from London to take over partial ownership 5 years ago.
Leslie's had the shop for 30 years, and I am the next generation to take it forward.
To that end, Potter created their online Etsy shop and boosted the store's Instagram page, all while keeping a New York City focus.
I just want to make sure that if people do come to New York and are interested in miniatures, that they know that Tiny Dollhouse is the only game in town and the place to visit. One of the kind of legacy aspects of taking it on from Leslie is to maintain a physical presence in New York.
Another part of that legacy is head carpenter Carlos Toro, who does all of his work in a very small workshop in the basement. He's been with Leslie for 25 years, ever since he had a construction accident.
all my friends and people that it says, let me tell you what Carlos does for a living. He's a carpenter, but he doesn't do just a regular carpenter. He builds dollhouses.
Carlos helps build and paint the dollhouses, putting in small crown moldings, wallpaper, and electricity. The shop has even made some houses based on iconic New York brownstones.
Through the years, we've built different brownstones and townhouses that look like the houses that you see in the Yorkville area. It gives the effect of a New York City style house. So this is a dollhouse for the dollhouse. So it was modeled after a New York City brownstone, and it opens and it lights.
Meta musings on miniatures aside, Edelman remains a fan and collector at heart.
And over the years, I've always found or felt that I have to love something in order to sell it. So I've always bought with that in mind, that I could end up owning it forever.
For DiverseCITY, I'm Vanessa Monet.
It's a time capsule of a bygone era, a luncheonette filled with nostalgia and small-town charm. What makes the place remarkable is that it's located on the bustling Upper East Side of Manhattan. And these days, thanks to social media, the neighborhood spot that's been serving customers for almost 100 years is more popular than ever. Linda Simidian has the sweet story.
It's the landmark luncheonette that's been memorialized in movies.
Hey, no butter on Ray's sandwich. He gets very panicky about butter.
From Robert Redford in 3 Days of the Condor to Woody Allen and John Turturro in Fading Gigolo. Lexington Candy Shop is the oldest family-run luncheonette on the Upper East Side.
Lexington Candy started in 1925 with my grandfather. In 1930, my father joined him. They both came from Greece, doing a lot of candy on the premises. They decided, my father and my grandfather said, it's a little bit better doing just food and stuff like that.
John Philis is the third-generation owner. He started working at the luncheonette more than 40 years ago and has never looked back.
I thought it would be nice to work together for a few years. Not everybody has the opportunity to work with their father like that.
Morning, John.
Hey, Tommy.
How are you?
All right.
Welcome back.
Thanks. How you doing?
Can I get one?
Yeah, we can get you. Around the world, people know about our pancakes.
You ready, sir? I came here because I saw them in internet and Instagram. So we came in the Lexington Avenue and we want to try the pancakes, the fluffy pancakes, and the Coke. It's very special.
Because of social media, a whole new generation is enjoying the retro restaurant, especially their Coca-Cola that they make the old-fashioned way.
So we had a promotion going on between Puma Seekers and Coca-Cola. There was an influencer online. They were taking pictures, and that day it went viral. From what I understand is that TikTok numbers around the world has been over 50 million views at least.
Show me how to make your
Okay.
viral sensation Coca-Cola.
Here you go. Got the syrup, regular Coca-Cola syrup, and seltzer. The pandemic was unbelievable. Our staff, we kept them on. PPP helped. When the city shut us down, that Monday I called on the landlord and said, we got a problem. They understood exactly what's going to happen. They've been a landlord for many, many years. We went through COVID together, and here we are talking like this. We made it through.
Located only 3 blocks from Metropolitan Museum of Art and Museum Mile, Lexington Candy Shop is its own destination stop, loved by both kids and grown-ups coming from near and far.
Well, we're visiting from Ireland and our niece lives here, so we wanted the authentic
diner experience, so she told us about here.
It's just part of the community. It's good breakfast, nice people.
I come here every day to get my fresh orange juice and the best lemonade in town.
I have a business partner, and he has a daughter. I have a daughter and a son. It's very hard to get third generation businesses of any kind. So if my son did it at a fourth generation, that would be amazing. We like being part of the fabric of the city, the Upper East Side. We've been here, and we've seen a lot of stuff over the years. Whenever this changes, people like to know that we're still here.
For Diverse City, I'm Linda Simidian.
That's our look at Yorkville on Manhattan's Upper East Side. Join us next time when we'll head over to Parkchester in the Bronx. Till then, thanks for joining us as we explore our diverse city.